I'm excited. Just for everybody tuning in, we are at Tailwaters Fly Shop here in Dallas, Texas. First of all, shout out to Tailwaters. Thank you to everybody here out here. But you know, this is such a blessing because I get a chance to. I've been invited up here, matter of fact, by the Mr. Richard Fryer, founder of Fellowship of the Outdoors.
I'm excited, man. This is gonna be awesome.
I feel like we meeting each other with the same kind of enthusiasm and allure.
We've had a ton
We've
of
been doing this a minute now.
This has been fun, man.
Yeah,
this has been fun. Learning from you with parenting, man.
Oh, bruh.
That's it.
This is I'm gonna get into the actual thing, but the best part about you know what we're doing is it doesn't just fall into bird dogs and the outdoors. And yes, it's Fellowship of the Outdoors. Yes, but what I appreciate about our conversations are, and I think this is me considering the climate in 2024. I think men need to have conversations with men about what life looks like now in contemporary society and how we motivate our sons, our daughters, the people that come behind us to be better humans. And so when you asked me to come up here, I'm coming with not only my story, but the lessons that I learned from great dog men in the South who were fantastic fathers, right? Fantastic family men. They were legendary dog men, right? And I think right now is the time to talk about that, man. So thank you so much for having me here.
I'm so excited you're here, man. Again, thanks to Tailwaters for making this happen. And it's wild, God's journey, man. What brings you down the path in so much of your life really isn't necessarily driven by you. We're in the back of the taxi cab and we know who's driving. And that's important, man. So, you know, we talk about the taxi cab, man. Tell me about your journey starting Fellowship of the Outdoors. Yeah, so it's been interesting. So we started a little over 2 years ago, and it really was a napkin conversation, man. It was me and about 3 other guys, and we were sitting there, and we're like, you know, how funny is it? Like, we love saltwater fly fishing. You know, it's a small little niche sport, and we don't know anyone that we can go fishing with when we get a really, like a Darrell Smith equivalent, right? Like a Steve Huff or someone like that. We get someone committed as a guide on the bow. We're like, man, this is like playing with Tiger Woods here. And like all of our buddies play golf. And it's like, obviously here duck hunting is extremely prominent. So we're like, we don't even know anyone that wants to go with it. And it's like, it's because it's so niche. So we're like, you know, that's a problem. Another problem is we live in this huge metropolitan area in Dallas-Fort Worth, which is booming. And these people are coming. Darrell Smith's coming. These people are coming, but we're like, we want to see them, but where are they presenting? You know, are they presenting it at Barnes & Noble or wherever? And usually, again, it's a nonprofit. So we sat there and we're like, you know, how cool would it be if we had that kind of a presence that was consistent? So as we started it, I'll tell you, and this is kind of a funny story, and it kind of runs parallel to the other stuff we're doing. We knew we needed a certain amount to set up our first event. We had 4 speakers our first year. We needed, I think it was 50 people. This is nuts, man. We needed 50 people to give us $350 each in like 6 weeks. 6 weeks. It was a big ask. And I felt like I had a decent network at the time coming from the corporate world. But man, I'll tell you, we hit number 50 on the day of the event, sitting right over there.
What?
So I'm just telling you, what's so surreal, and I wish I had our other board members here to share the idea. As we've continued, we had some jostling during that time as, do we want to cater to a low-cost crowd? Is this more of like a, hey, BYOB type of an arrangement? Or do we want to go top shelf? And we went the latter, of course, and it worked. So I'll tell you, it is so surreal, and I think this is a big part of today's world and what's lacking in today's world is people, I think, need to let their fingers go off the reins a bit and have some inner peace and knowing that it's all right that you don't know where you're going. Like, you don't know exactly where the destination is. And by the way, it's probably a good thing.
It is a very good thing.
Right?
I think that's kind of, to me, does anybody really want to know, like, what the end of their life really looks like?
I mean,
I don't.
I think there's a lot of people that I think if they thought more about that, they would have a lot more inner peace.
Have a lot more inner peace.
Yeah.
Like, look toward the future, yes. But appreciate where we are right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do everything. You can't put all your ducks in a basket down the road.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Be here. Be present. You know, even with outdoor stuff, right? How many times you done been in the woods, been fly fishing? You don't have time to think about the next fish. You got that one right there, and that you trying to set that hook.
I think if there is something, and I was visiting with a friend about, I think his daughter was having issues with mental health, and they started talking about different, drugs they could diagnose. And he said, no, none of that. Let's go outdoors. So they went up to Montana and went a trip. And literally, I think it had been years since she had done this. Yeah. And she goes out and literally like a whole new person, just calm and being around. And you sit there and you're like, man, it really is that simple. Like I think, and I'll look at it this way. Like you look at, if your dream is to become a billionaire, that's your dream. Yeah. It is what it is. You may have set yourself at a low level if that's truly what you think you are. But let's say you accomplish that. By the time you're there, man, like you're still sitting there. You don't have anything else that's surrounding. So I think the number one thing as a business person that you're trained to think all the time is operate with the end in mind.
Yes, sir.
And I think if we look at the world of infinity versus 80 or 90 years old, infinity is obviously longer. So you think about that world. If we focus on the idea of peace being the main objective, I think things get easier. Now, I'm not going to say I'm great at it. I'm not going to say I'm great at
right?
it.
That's why we're outdoors.
But it's a pursuit.
It's a pursuit.
It's a pursuit.
I wasn't the greatest at bird dog, bro. The Vegas dog I showed you.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how often I bought
those dogs are great, man. Those are awesome.
It, but like that wasn't all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I started with one dog. I started with a lab.
Did you?
And it was
what kind of dog? Yeah, what? Tell me more about it.
So I started with a lab.
Okay.
And didn't have a whole lot of money. I didn't grow up in a hunting family, nothing like that, man. Yeah. I went to the pawn shop, picked me up a little 870 camo, felt like a fence post.
Yeah.
I didn't have a bunch of money, $5, $6 every other week to go buy pinned birds. But what I do have is the Department of Natural Resources, right? I've got, local folks around the way that if you just ask. Ask the old man at the gas station. Yeah. I went, and with that lab, I spent my time studying and learning habitat. And at that point, me and that lab, we were finding wild birds in Georgia. Yeah. In Georgia.
Which is basically...
It ain't a whole lot of them.
I mean, you look at Georgia as the primary... I mean, you look at most of these places here. We have a nonprofit here that did a huge gala, and I was sitting there. They were raising like $30,000 or $40,000 for a Georgia hunt. Yeah, and I'm like, you could probably go buy that hunt somewhere. You can, but it's royal. I mean, that is royalty. That when is I tell the number one destination.
It is Georgia is the quail mecca. Yeah, I know Kansas folk gonna be all upset. Yeah, no. We have the history.
It's the place.
It's plantation, but shoot, man. And had plantation money, and until I met my mentors, I didn't even have access to that. Yeah. So we were using public land. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Wow. And we were hunting public land and getting coveys. So my thing, and I was doing that with a single shot 410.
Are you kidding?
My granddaddy's gun, and so I had my granddaddy's gun. Then I went and got my 870 later. And that was a 12 gauge, but like, it was about being out for the sake of being out and figuring it out. And despite that, and that journey led me to Neil, my mentor. It led me to Eric, my other mentor. It led me to, the dog handlers down there. It led me to you many years later. So cool. So I just think it's important to realize that, like, if we focus on, if it's being a billionaire, all right, I ain't got but 3 cents, but I'm a
hey, you run a business, man.
We gonna get it done.
It's not profitable until you sell it.
Until you sell it.
Right? That's right.
And so, but look, tell us about the mission of Fellowship of the Outdoors, man. Like, who are you reaching? And what does the future look like? Since we're talking about it.
No, I appreciate you asking, man. It's the vacancy we see, and not just in this area of the world, but in general, is having a place for outdoorsmen to come and candidly to bring new people that haven't experienced it yet. So in this community in Dallas-Fort Worth, again, duck hunting's big and golf is big. And I mention those two because they're both in the outdoors. They're both outside. You're spending time with people, you're outside, and you're playing a game, right? So we want to draw a commonality with those people and bring them into the thing that brings us so much joy, but notably helps with mental health. So as a singular statement, the main point of the Fellowship of the Outdoors is to educate existing and new outdoors people and bring them in. And as an offshoot of that, find a way to fund a lot of phenomenal wildlife and habitat focused charities in the meantime. So we're selecting, as we look into next year, 4 major charities that have to do with wildlife and the habitat to fund. Now granted, obviously we're a nonprofit. We have to obviously pay the bills, but that's part of the focus.
But I think it's great because again, there are 2 components there, right? And those components need each other, right? The people need the habitat needs the people, and you guys are bridging that.
No doubt. So I'll use an example. So like him or hate him, so Donald Trump Jr. had a absolutely incredible role in helping with Pebble Mine. And you look at
shout out to that. That's a success last year.
It's a phenomenal accomplishment. You look at, as an example, so Key West Harbor been drudged by, I mean, I'll just be candid, a phenomenal industry in terms of profitability in cruise ships. Unfortunately, completely decimating a lot of areas of wildlife. And at the time I've spent in the Florida Keys, you look at guys like Will Benson that have put a lot of time and effort towards getting some political momentum built to try to fix that problem. It's going to take some money to fix that. I mean, it is what it is.
Well,
it's going to take some money.
Takes money. And I really want, I'm glad you said that. Because again, politics aside, I want to see the bipartisan effort. Because habitat doesn't care, right? I need the people on both sides of the aisle with the money to care more about what's going on habitat-wise.
That's right. That's right.
This work, even in a nonprofit space, takes money, right? Well, and it takes a lot to be able to, like for our festival, where our funders and partners, it takes money to get kids to our events, right? We ain't got it all, but there are other folks out there that are willing to say, hey, look, even if we can't be there, we can write a check to help get people here, right? And so I'm so glad that you said that, man. It just, like, there's the feel-good element of what we do. But you a businessman.
Well, ultimately,
the almighty dollar.
Well, let's be real. There's parts of running a nonprofit, and this is just me observing, running it. Obviously, I don't have any background in running a nonprofit other than this. So my observation is, once people have made it, they start realizing why they made it, right? And I think, of course, we aren't beating anyone over the head with this, but with the word fellowship, it's an intentional word, right? That there'll be moments, intimate moments during trips or events or what have you, when you're, quite frankly, if you're a businessman or a businesswoman and you're in a position where you're spending a lot of time working with the family or whatever, you can't get away for a 20-day elk trip, you know, whatever you're doing, wild sheep, whatever, to have that kind of experience when you're doing that. So be this a time with the people you love, enjoy, let's say, a presentation and taking some great you know, food that you would ordinarily harvest during a deal, enjoy some spirits, and enjoy, most importantly, the fellowship. Compile that, let's say 20-day elk hunt into 3 or 4 hours is kind of the mission. But I look at the thing, it's like we want there to be a Christian undercurrent, an opportunity for people to really have the lights turned on during that experience when they're really in the throes of it, as you and I are with kids and business and the whole deal, to realize what it's all about. And I think if there is a degree of ministry, that's how I feel as you know, I'm currently in the position, not forever, currently in the position where I'm the president of the nonprofit. I would look at it as the term, when you think about the word president, the key operative word is preside. You're observing, you're making sure things go accordingly, which is the way I observe it. And really the whole thing I'm trying to fixate on is, I just want to make sure that there's positive, there's people meeting each other, and that there's good momentum going towards that mission. Because ultimately, I think the baseline for most of us, I think, when you get that moment, you realize why you're here. Relationships is a cornerstone of the entire existence.
Oh, absolutely. This doesn't happen without relationships. Matt, who I was telling you about, my wife and I's mentor.
Yeah.
One thing that she says to us, and it's stuck, and she says it in the first time first time I heard it, we were starting our nonprofit.
Yeah.
She said it again years later. We got it. She says, you know, progress and success move at the speed of relationships. Right? Yeah. And it takes time.
That's so true, man.
I'm trying to tell you, you got it. It's just like dating, right? Yeah. You got to sit there and take out a little bit, right? You got to walk with a little bit. You got to spend time building that relationship, right? Yeah. And especially in the nonprofit space, my friend, it does not move fast.
Well, I'll say this, and I'll say this as a startup founder. If there is one lesson I've learned as a salesperson that's shifted and become more surreal in the time that I've learned towards a startup, it's that fact that you can tell immediately that not everyone's going to buy.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a difference between positive energy and negative energy. And what you said, the speed of the relationship is critical, because it's clear that when you meet with someone and they're not interested in new things, which is, by the way, a deeper idea about what else they're not interested in. But anyways, I won't digress. But point being, if they're into that, it will move faster. So it's, such as anything, anything new, which includes human life. It includes anything. Habitat, wildlife, whatever. Like, there's something powerful about the understanding of something new and the appreciation for something new. Right. And that's, I think, part of, if I'm looking at it, you look at like college football and the growth that we've seen there, or the growth of obviously all of our wonderful sports during COVID. I think as we continue to grow as an industry, I think we'll see more people bringing up new opportunities, more artwork, more outlets, new habitat that needs to be accessed. And a big part of it, of course, is going to be responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's going to be, and not just responsibility to take care of it. That's one piece. Responsibility to help one another's and make sure we have an opportunity to help bring people in the right way to have this be an inclusive sport. Absolutely. Part of what we've found as a common thread, you being obviously the cornerstone man, is like we want all of our speakers to be inclusive, willing to help, and really appreciate new people. And it's unfortunately not the case. Not everyone views it that way.
And but we have the opportunity now to change that.
Without a doubt.
We have the opportunity to rewrite that narrative. You know, my wife is big on this, man. Unity. Going into 2025.
Oh man.
Unity is going to be the key phrase, and it is a much more abstract phrase. Or word, not phrase. It's a much more abstract word,
without a doubt,
than just, let's kumbaya and get everybody together. No, like, are you unified here?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? With the thing. Am I unified with you as we move forward, fellowshipping, right?
That's right.
Through, like, that's such a wide spanning word, and it's our job as nonprofit leaders to help continue to define that. Right? It's and how we define that, most importantly, is through our actions.
No doubt.
Right? I believe in being proficient at the thing.
Well, you have to.
You got to model it first. You got to manage it. You got to model it, and you got to inspire people.
Without a doubt.
You know. So let's also get into it, because I want to get into.
Oh man! I want to get into that.
Give me 1 second. We're gonna get there too. I want to get there.
Don't get me started talking about hats.
We got some young folks coming up here today, though. And I want you to tell me. Kind of what you had in mind for coming up here too, but tell me about some of the young folks that's coming up here. Like, give us an outlook of what you expected for today.
Yeah, really, a big part of, and this is, I'll say it this way. So I had done a lot of, speaking publicly in my old role. So I used to be a financial services wholesaler, and it was a weekly thing. You would get up and present, that kind of thing. And the thing I learned pretty quick, especially with managers like overseeing you, that the more you read a script, the more it just doesn't come off the right way.
Oh gosh.
So what I love more than anything else is not steering our speakers, right? And in addition, really not pushing too hard with anyone who comes about bringing people or paying. Like we're in a sponsor finance model.
Yeah.
So as much as I've learned, and I hope that I've learned, from the divine to like calm and be calm and let life kind of happen and unfold and be chill, whichever crazy way it happens. Right. Admittedly, it's kind of the same, where it's like we want for the people to come to hear truly authentically what the speaker wants to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's, I'll tell you, our first event, it's going to be, I'm sure, very similar to what you present. Man, we had people crying. It was insane. Adam Barker, awesome guy out of Salt Lake, professional photographer. He came and presented. He had a number of different presentations, but one in particular was a picture of a father and a son walking down the trail, and he was talking about them in particular, and you're like, dude, and we had a guy sitting right there, man, just bawling his eyes out. But you think about that. I think a part of, as you and I as artists, man, such a big part of, I think, what's inaccurate and not effective as human language is that feeling, right? Like, people remember how you make them feel, not necessarily some of the words and the details objectively that get you there.
Right.
So I think a part of what I think that's cool about having a speaker come and present, because admittedly, that's what we were going to call this. We were going to call it the Outdoorsman Speaker Series.
Yeah.
And we chose, by the grace of God, chose the word, fellowship to lead it. But
hey, folks, just a little bit of a break. Check out our sponsors at Beretta USA, the finest in Italian sporting arms. Of course, Benchmade Knife Company. Get your latest and greatest at benchmade.com. And Eukanuba Sporting Dog, keeping the dogs fueled up on the road. All right, folks, back to the episode.
So we're coming back.
Yeah.
And switching cameras and stuff like that. But we're coming back. I want to talk about you as an artist, because I thought the way that you talk about art and making things and producing.
Yeah.
I swore you had a whole art degree, bro.
You were mistaken. You were mistaken, man.
But let's talk about that. Like, these are all fantastic. I'm blessed to have one on today. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're wearing it.
Yeah, man. Tell us about your work, your company, and what you're doing in that lane. Because you're hitting some heavy hitters too.
It's been wild, man. So we, my wife and I, blessed to have her in a position where she was game for us to kind of go down this entrepreneurial road.
Yeah.
So this is actually kind of a weird story. So I was in corporate America probably about 3.5 years ago. January 4th was up the first day. I think I want to say it was January 4th. But anyways, transitioned away from corporate America. That night, this idea, which I had been building hats for clients and friends and that kind of thing for a while. But that night, this idea and another idea for a technology business that we eventually want to build came to me, and I'm like, man, this is kind of weird. Like, I don't know, because I looked at becoming a financial advisor and being a successor to a number of practices.
Yep.
And I was like, do that. It's just for a lot of reasons. My dad's a financial advisor. Not sure that was what I wanted to do.
Yep.
So that next morning, I'm on the Peloton, and I'm sitting there, and I see under calories burned the numbers 316, and I hear a prominent word. I told you I got you. More prominent than anything in my entire life.
Oh.
It was unbelievable. So, of course, I don't want to be a doubting Thomas, but of course I wanted to make sure I was in a position where I could kind of lean in and make sure this is the right path. Yep. So started building hats, worked with a hat manufacturer here in Texas, tried to see whether that would work.
Yeah.
It was cost prohibitive, and quality was also prohibitive for a number of reasons, but I won't digress. We started looking abroad, which allowed for us to really find a place which at the time was building an outdoor hat manufacturing business. And now we're one of 3 companies in the entire country that builds, manufactures quality, full custom, quite frankly, artwork in the version of shirts, hats, all sorts of stuff. But this is an example of an output that I would argue you can't find anywhere else.
You can't find. I'm just put that in the camera right there.
It's a pretty wild.
That is.
It's a pretty wild deal. So that's for me an example of really something. In my opinion, you and I've had a lot of conversations about this, man. Like, everyone's got a number of gifts that they're given, but we need to focus our time on what the real objective is, right? And when you have the focus on the real objective, a lot of the pressures of this world, secularly, like providing all that stuff, kind of calm down. I'll tell you, we've had plenty of opportunities with this business where money hasn't been completely obviously abundant, but belief has allowed for us to have abundance throughout the entire journey, which also is...
But it goes to that honor your call thing.
It is, man.
I got your back.
But it's ironic because in both situations, we've had similar situations with the nonprofit in this. So I find it interesting. You will find people, and I know you've had it because we talked about this, you'll find people in this chapter that are willing to believe it, and some that won't. And when the day comes when it's much larger,
then it's going to be like,
yeah,
I told you so.
And
but it goes back to, there's going to be a lot of people that don't believe it.
That's right. That's right.
That's there. That's the consistent variable, right?
Yeah.
The variable that we're manipulating, right, are the people that are like, huh, I can see this. I can see where you're going. All right, great. Let me give you a little bit more, right? And give a little bit more, and you invest in those people, and they invest back, right?
That's it, man.
And
you can't necessarily control people.
No.
The big thing is, and my pastor was telling me about this. It's like, be your honest to God self, and don't let the world deter you.
Yep.
Like, because your real objective is not necessarily making them happy.
No.
It's making someone else happy. You know what I'm saying?
I think, to your point, I think that if more people focused on that which they are called to do, not that which is somebody else told them they need to do, not that their mama told them to do, not that their wife told them, or your daddy, or whoever. What has God told you to do? Because that voice is there. That voice is there. You is in it. It's in me. It's there. And if we, what I'm doing right now, and if more of us, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I like
none of us
this,
are.
None of us are. But this is work. Ashley and I are deliberate about telling our children, number one, that you were great. But then number two, you have brilliance that just needs to come out. And whatever we need to do as parents,
that's awesome.
We need to keep you disciplined. We need to keep you on the right track, but we need to also put you in a space that allows you and your gifts to flourish on their own. It's no different than a bird dog, dude. I get a real.
I like what you did there.
You see what I'm saying? My job is to make sure the genetics are there, and the opportunity. I'm gonna put you in good habitat, right? And let you run. You're gonna figure out how to point birds. All of that's gonna come out.
I think another thing too, man, and I'll say it this way, like, I feel like the thing with artwork, and it makes me laugh, dude, like, I think there's a lot of people that may have some artistic outlet, right? And they may not even think they have, like, for a long time, man, I didn't think I was even that good. Dude, we're selling,
this is it.
It's the whole, it's the whole business now. Like, we're about to shift the business from, like, a hat apparel business. It will be artwork. Will be the main thing we are selling. In a world, by the way, in golf, dude, artwork is you can't even charge. You can't even charge for artwork. It's all like, oh yeah, that just that was just an outlet of what we could do, and most of it's stocked artwork. So it makes me laugh because I'm like, a big part of, like you said, with the parenting thing, which also has to do with stewarding people, friends that you know.
So many of these things.
It's like no one was, and forgive me for saying this, it is what it is. I don't think anyone wakes up and like, oh man, I want to go sell insurance today.
No one does.
But the same thing on this too. I won't lie. Obviously, as much as we may think this is cool, or bird dogging or guiding or anything, it really is obvious. Back to the fellowship, like, it is all about connections with people. That is clearly the main distinct reason why we're here. So as much as I don't want to establish my identity in this or anything, my identity is in one singular thing. And all of these are all applications of ways that he thinks I need to be operating to add value to those people's lives in their pursuit of, obviously, going north.
So I'm gonna ask you, as we conclude, I'm gonna ask you a question that I get asked.
Tell me, man.
How do you do it all? You got so many different things going. You've got so many different talents. How do you do it all?
Man, I'm so glad you asked this. So I was in a position when I was in corporate America. I'm so glad you asked that question, man. This is such a great topic. I used to drink a little bit. You would kind of get done with a week and you're like, man, I kind of want to have a cocktail or whatever. And during that time, when we were going down this business and we started having the opportunity with the nonprofit and also the kids.
Yeah.
And also I had undiagnosed sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Started getting a little crazy. It started getting a little nuts. I don't know if any of you guys have sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
It is nuts. And I used to get it bad when I was,
yeah.
It's gotten better actually since I stopped teaching.
Wow.
Yeah. I couldn't sleep a lot.
Yeah, it's scary. And heart issues and all sorts of stuff. So anyways, point being, the thing in my life, my wife gets a little, I chuckle because I've replaced all areas of what I used to think would relax me with really three major things, which is obviously spirituality, exercise, and meditation.
Absolutely.
And in that piece, probably all, and I have friends that are still struggling with this, we all do, but I think the one missing element in our medical world today is an understanding of the connection between the human psyche and the way we feel.
Absolutely.
And a big part of that, as we all know, and I'll use the example of when do you feel, and look at kids too, when do you feel the most like acting out? In whatever definition you have of the word acting out, or the phrase acting out, it's usually when you're tired, right?
Yeah.
Temptation creeps its way in that time. So I'd say the same thing about when we're dealing with stress.
Yep.
As business owners, I mean, this is a part of our life.
Yeah.
So if you're in a position where you realize that, you have a lot more control over the way you operate than you think.
Absolutely.
And stress, if we can find ways to think positively and have that, a part of that spiritual connection, I've gotten really into following a number of authors, one of which is a guy named John Gordon, phenomenal public speaker to NFL teams, college football teams, but really subscribing to this spiritual connection with positive energy and leadership.
Absolutely.
And it's that same thing.
Send me that when you get a chance.
I will. You gotta feed the right area of yourself.
Yep.
The more you think positively, the more you think you can do it, it matters. And I'll use an example. I've followed Clemson football for a number of years. Although I love the dogs too, man.
Yeah.
I lived in Atlanta for a long time. So with them playing here in about 6 weeks, it's
gonna be rough.
I think Georgia's probably gonna win that game pretty handily. God bless people that went to Clemson. I love Clemson too, but I think with Dabo as an example, man, they asked him a question, and this I'm getting goosebumps right now even thinking about it. They're like, so you guys for a long time were like top 25, pretty consistently. And then randomly, you started getting in the top 5 every year. And I've asked other people this too, professionals, and they're like, so what was it? Like, what was that thing? What was that one thing that changed it? He's like, there's a lot of time, and this is his answer. He's like, there's a lot of times when you come out of that tunnel, man, and you think you're gonna win, you feel pretty good, but you don't know you're gonna win.
Yeah.
And it sounds ridiculous. Of course it would to a hater. But there is a moment, and when you come out and you know you're going to win, and you're coming out sprinting, not kind of stumbling and kind of feeling your way, man, that is the winning energy.
Yeah.
And that's what gets you to capacity. So I use an example with anything you're doing. I think with people that, from a business perspective, nonprofit, parenting, all of it, we're all in a battle every day. And the battle is between positive and negative energy. We have both in us. So when you choose that positive road, it's I think ultimately I think if you're considering yourself almost like a warrior for God and being a warrior in every moment and trying to choose the right path consistently, I think positive energy is the tool you use to operate in that way.
I agree.
And I know you subscribe to the same thing.
I am the person now. I am deliberate about, again, controlling that which feeds me.
I love that.
I stopped doing a lot of the things that just were bringing me down or whatever. And again, that's a number of different things. We don't need to go down that. But I subscribe to that too. I want people to see it on me. Right? Positivity begets positivity. Negativity begets negative. That is the most definitive thing.
Fact.
You see what I'm saying?
It's always going to be that way.
And if folks can see me hustling, folks can see me involved in the thing that I'm most passionate about, and folks can see me growing. My kids can see me growing.
That's another thing.
You see what I'm saying?
Modeling.
My wife can see me growing. I'm becoming a better husband, becoming a better father, becoming a better guide. You know, And it's all about, okay, and it's all about setting that schedule for myself. I wake up, my biggest thing, this new thing, and I'm guitar, right?
No
Teaching
way.
myself guitar.
Oh,
yeah.
man, I can't wait to catch up with you about that one.
Yeah, I just bought me a new Martin, right?
No way.
But it was something that I felt like I wanted to do years ago, and kind of dabbled in it, and then like,
oh
yeah,
I'll tell you that.
That's what's feeding it, right?
That's awesome.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I get up. Music, it does so many good things. You talk about art, right?
Yep.
Get up. I've still got commissions I got to work on.
Oh yeah.
Get up, do that, man. My brain is creating, but creating from a good place,
cool.
from day one, but
Yeah.
from like hour one of the day.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
And I think that's important. I'm one of them people, man. I used to get up, watch the news every morning.
Oh man.
And I do it, but I also make sure I fill that space with something that's gonna bring me up too.
Yep.
I'm a father, so I feel like I need to know what's going on in the news. Yes, it's that double-edged sword.
I feel you.
But you know, the best part about it, even the people that I fill my space with, I wouldn't fill my space with you. And vice versa, if energy wasn't here, positivity.
Everything, man.
I'm good on hanging out with folks that don't like your dog, you got the wrong fly rod, your guitar ain't this.
You can kick that stuff.
You kick, man, but bro, don't nobody care about that,
honestly,
man. Like, how are we sharing positive energy together? I don't want to walk the woods with nobody that's got something negative to say, bro. No, man.
I'll tell you the biggest challenge on that same note, man. And I'm studying this and looking for answers in this. So if anyone has comments, we'd love to hear it. But the area of scripture that I'm continually focusing on is like when someone wrongs you or in general is on the wrong path, how do you handle that, right? And we've had this conversation, and it's hard because in so many areas it goes back to the definition of love, right?
Yes.
Agape love, like, you know, is not always defined in just a hug. Obviously, as parents, you and I both know it.
Yeah.
Discipline is also
but that discipline comes from agape, like
without a doubt,
built in there.
It's a part of that entire fabric of that word. So, I mean, look at this. This experience we call life ain't easy.
Yeah.
But God's through this journey bringing us to where we end up arriving, which is a great place. So that's, I think, a big part of what I continue to focus on. Like, you and I had conversations about some of the most prolific spiritual people in the history of the world. Absolutely. And those people, a common thread was the way they handled people that harmed them.
Yes.
And that's what's so fascinating to me is I'm like, as I grow as a parent and grow as a man, that's like the one thing I'm trying to get better at, honestly. And that's, I think, a part of all of this. Like, you're never perfect, be it business, life, whatever. But the one thing that's very obvious is if you wanted to be remembered, that would be what you would do. You would focus all of your time on helping people, and ego would essentially be dead.
It'd be dead. And the thing is, and actually this is where I want to conclude our podcast, leaving that legacy, right?
Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered? Let me ask you that. How do you want to be remembered?
Yep. So my identity is such that I'm a believer, I'm a family man. Ultimately, I'm an entrepreneur in the current vocation I'm in, and my real goal is to be charitable.
Yeah.
It's to add value to other people's lives without any intent on anything back.
Right.
So the number one identity, you can kick all this stuff, right? I mean, for me, of course, obviously I love it. My family, I love it. But things will come and go in this life. Yeah. So the number one identity must be that I'm a believer.
Absolutely.
And in part of that, I mean, I wear this wristband for that same reason of believe. And it's facing outward for a reason, which is I want to focus my time and energy on believing in people. And what I mean by that is you can still discipline, you can do like the Dabo Sweeney analogy, like he still disciplines his players. You still discipline your pups. You still discipline your kids. Like, but the difference between the Woody Hayes and the Dabo Sweeney is Woody Hayes would kick him in the rear end, and that was the end of it. Versus Dabo kicks him in the rear end and says, "Hey, I believe you. Go get him. Go get him." And that's part of, I think, a responsibility for us is to remember. And I believe me, man, we got factories. So There's times that I got to kick them in the rear end, and they're awesome. I'm saying
but
that
you
they're great. But there's times when we need to kick them in the rear end, and that's where ultimately, I think a part of that is not losing sight for our identity while we're here. Absolutely. And I tell you, with the state mental health crisis, with the outdoors and where it needs to go, this is where I think what most people need help is establish your identity in the right thing, and nothing can rock you.
There you go.
If you establish your identity in job, money, title, even family or kids, you're going to lose each one of those between now and when you go up. So you gotta concrete yourself to something that is going to be consistent, and then allow for the rest of your life to be living easy.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it, man. Daryl, so appreciate you, man. This is awesome, brother. So glad you guys brought us together.
These are the conversations.
This is it, man. This is awesome.
And I want to take this and put it in our presentation. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
I want the folks that's coming here to see me, we don't share that message.
I love that, man.
Let's do it.
This is going to be awesome, brother. Thanks again for having me, man.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.